This table can fit so many role players around it. Today's video is sponsored by Burrowbound. Hello everyone, my name is Luna and I make videos recapping and breaking down all of the things that happen in Critical Role, including pointing out the hidden references you may have missed.
Things need life to live.
I've been waiting to hear you say that.
So don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a breakdown. We're almost at 20,000 subscribers and it's my birthday in like 3 weeks, so it would be really nice if we could hit 20,000 before then. This episode brought us the long-awaited reunion between the Bells, Hells, and the potential formation of a new group of heroes, so let's dive right in. The episode begins with Team Wildmount, joined by Deanna and Frida, which I was very thrilled about. I was so convinced that they were just going to get like shunted elsewhere during the teleportation mishap, so it was a very nice surprise. First things first, they resolve Laura's terrible teleportation roll from the last time we saw these guys in episode 58, when she rolled a 5. According to the teleport spells chart, that is a mishap, so they all take psychic damage and Laura has to roll again when, what do you know it?
Got it.
No!
No, you did not. No, you did not!
That is another mishap, so they take more damage and Laura has to roll again.
I rolled a 13.
That's barely over.
Hey, bud.
But-
No way, really?
You gotta roll
Right?
higher.
Okay, so this isn't a mishap, but it means that they get teleported to a similar area, which the spell describes as a different area that's visually or thematically similar to the target area, and Bells Hells get shunted somewhere else in Wildmount. While they're standing around trying to get their bearings, they are ambushed by a group of birdfolk known in Exandria as Icefura, or Aarakocra, as they are known in D&D 5e. Imogen reaches out to them telepathically saying, you know, we come in peace, and they all put their hands up, except for Frida, who stands protectively in front of FCG. Aww. This does not dissuade the Icefura, who throw nets over the group, capturing Deanna, Frida, Fern, and Imogen. The capturers demand to know what Team Wildmount are doing here and make it clear that this is a secret and private settlement where outsiders are not welcome. From this, I think we can safely assume that the group have found themselves in Valantum, an Icefura settlement in the Sirius Mountains, which is described in Explorer's Guide to Wildmount. It is a fairly small settlement of around 4,000 and is built into the cliffs of the Sirius Mountains, making it very defensible and difficult for travelers to reach, as it is only accessible by flying to it. So they must have had a very nasty shock when Team Wildmount just showed up. Imogen tries to explain that they ended up here by accident, but she rolls poorly and the Icefura begin to drag them into the mountain. Fern then chimes in with the help of FCG's bonded blessing, managing to convince them. Now, understandably, the whole time this is happening, FCG is freaking out since he is terrified of birds following his traumatic experiences with Shithead, who we learned was actually real in episode 42 and we weirdly haven't seen since.
Are you friends with him? Are you friends with him? Do you know Shithead? Did he send you?
He has already been under a lot of stress since the fight in Malaya's Mirror, which is mechanically represented by his stress points, and using his bonded blessing with Fern tips him over the edge in this moment to full-on murderbot mode. Frida, noticing that something is wrong and seeing FCG's eyes turning red, psychically reaches out to FCG using a new ability they got from their level up. Oh yeah, by the way, the party leveled up to level 10. While this is all happening and following Fern's successful persuasion roll, the Icefura agree to blindfold the group and deposit them somewhere else far away from the settlement, and they begin lifting the group up into the air. Imogen, also recognizing FCG is about to snap, casts calm emotions on him.
So I imagine I look over and I just see FCG like twitching.
Yeah, like full.
Fuck you!
Oh, okay, all right.
Stop looking at me like that, you freak!
It only lasts for a minute, so as FCG feels the spell wearing off, he casts it on himself too to buy some extra time. The Icefura drop them off in a wooded area, warning them not to come back, threatening violence if they return, and fly off. Frida rushes over to FCG and...
I run up to him and in his head he hears, "It's gonna be okay," and I kiss him. I grab him and I kiss him.
Matt allows FCG to make a wisdom saving throw, which he succeeds on, so he is able to lower some of his current stress points thanks to Frida's kiss. That is very sweet. Something I want to point out here is it's really interesting that FCG did tip over that line into murder robot mode, but didn't actually kind of go full murder robot. And I think the reason for this is that I think Sam recognized that they needed to get the group back together. Like, we'd already heard that the group were inspired by fire because of the scry spell that Team AOL did last week. So if he went fully out of control and started attacking the Icefura, there's no way that Matt could hand wave them not like getting imprisoned or killed or, you know, outnumbered. It was just, I think it was just kind of a thing of like, I'm doing this thing because it makes sense for my character, but also mechanically and like narratively, we sort of need to just move over this a little bit more smoothly than perhaps we normally would. Imogen, apologizing to everyone for the teleportation kerfuffle, realizes that she can't cast it again until the next day as the magic staff she used to cast it needs to recharge, so they settle in for a long rest. And on that kind of like hand waving and smoothing things over, I definitely think there's a pretty big time discrepancy between the two groups, especially given and that they then take another day to get to Dressar here, but oh well, we needed them to be back together. It's fine. While FCG is sleeping or is in shutdown mode, Frida casts Detect Thoughts on FCG. The surface thoughts are mostly about, the most recent events, but as Frida pushes in further,
there is, it wouldn't even classify it as a rage, but an immovable intent to kill. There is a need to destroy and cleanse. It feels unlike FCG. It feels alien. It feels intrusive, like an intrusive thought that has grown so intrusive that it cannot be ignored any further.
He also sees visions of hands building FCG. I think this vision has got to be confirmation that FCG was part of the Care and Culling event, where a bunch of automatons were sent as diplomatic gifts to a bunch of high-ranking folks and were programmed to turn on them and kill them. We've had evidence of that fact in previous episode, but there, it feels like there's always been room for doubt, and I think that this vision of a burning need to kill eliminates that doubt. I wonder if we'll see, if there's time in this mad dash to stop lewdness, a story arc for FCG where he works out how to, excise that, programming, or if it's going to remain an integral part of them forever. The fact that Matt described this rage feeling as being alien and not like FCG does give me hope that maybe it can be taken out of them. The next morning, Imogen casts Teleport again and
53.
Oh.
finally, they arrive in Dressar. Huzzah! Oh, hey, that rhymes. Dressar, huzzah! They are on the Smolder Spire, which is the smallest one of the city and is where a lot of the industry happens. From their vantage point there, they can see Ruidus flaring in the sky, still tethered by a red beam to the Malleus Key site where this whole thing started. They notice that the people of the town are tense, and there are also stacks of skyships, way more than usual. They're sort of overflowing out of the skyport, as well as soldiers and guards from all different militaries all over the world. It looks like the continents are coming together and sort of treating Dressar as a base. Oh, I would love to be a fly on the wall for any of those kind of diplomatic discussions between the Council of Taldore, the Dwendalian Empire, all of this stuff. Although, would it be the Dwendalian Empire since lewdness is from the Cerberus Assembly, which is a very influential society, position, government thing in the Dwendalian Empire? Probably not. As they are trying to decide on where to head, Deanna scries on Laudna to see if she is in Dressar, and she sees her in the cave system where Team AOL stayed before teleporting out. Imogen is very relieved to hear that she is okay, although I think none of them could guess what kind of stuff or trauma that Laudna has been through. They decide to head to the Soot and Swirl first, and we get to see Pretty again!
With this long nightcap that dangles past his mid-back with this little burst at the end. He's got a night coat on that goes right past his knees, but a little bit too high. It looks like it barely fits him, and you can see stitch marks where it looks like it's been expanded multiple times to try and fit his ogre form.
Pretty, I love you, will you marry me? Pretty explains that he hasn't seen Laudna around, and that things have been pretty weird around town with the Apogee Solstice still underway, and that some of the gondolas have stopped working. They say goodbye to Pretty after Deanna fixes up one of the seams on his homemade PJs.
It's hard to find patterns in my body, son.
And head to the gondola station so they can get across to the Spire by Fire. This gondola isn't working though, so instead there is a broom sweeper, which only carries a few people at a time and is usually utilized by the upper classes. This broom sweeper is being run back and forth between the spires, and there is a long line of people waiting. So they flaunt their royal seal from the king and queen of Uthadern, and they skip the queue, cementing in my mind once and for all that yes, they are in fact the evil ones. Death to vultures and queue jumpers. They arrive at the Spire by Fire and are greeted by Ishiri, a Qatari, otherwise known as a tabaxi or a catfolk, who is pleased to see them as most of the inn has been taken over as a sort of barracks and meeting area for a lot of the imported military forces. There are a number of these soldiers in the inn, and the group notice symbols of the Clovis Concord from the Menagerie Coast, which is in Wildmount, the crest of the Council of Taldore, as well as soldiers from religious orders like the Dawn Father. Chetney buys a round of ale for one group of these soldiers and attempts to get more information out of them, but they're a little cagey, stating that they're just following orders and they don't really know anything. Chetney takes his leave, and Fern, who was wild-shaped into a raccoon dog, this is what that looks like if you're wondering, by the way. I'll be completely honest, I had no idea that there was a difference between a raccoon and a raccoon dog. She heads over to the table so she can listen to their conversation.
Oh, aren't you adorable? This is new for gracing my mornings. Thank you, you're adorable. Do you want a bit of breakfast? Do you want bacon?
I love that Fern's signature play is just turning into a cute animal and just like basically getting adopted as a pet. As she is eavesdropping, she hears the soldiers grumbling about being kept in the dark about why they're here and talking about how they will be moving out to the site shortly. I think it's pretty safe to assume that this site is the Malleus Key site, and I wonder if all of these combined forces are planning an assault there. Imogen saw a bunch of Rylora around that site in episode 52, so I am dying to know what is going on there.
And for a brief instant, you swear you can see people down there. Dozens. Maybe 100 or so people. They're not people. At least not how you know him. They're red skin.
No, they're the Rylora.
It is so fun to see all of these sort of disparate elements coming together, all of this lore from different parts of the world of Exandria sort of converging on this one site. I really love how in-depth and expansive the lore of Exandria is, and I would really love to include that kind of depth and detail in my own games, but can I share a secret? I don't really enjoy world building that much. I know, I feel like an imposter DM anytime I say that, but I find the whole process really overwhelming and also like very time consuming. I would rather focus on the stories in a setting rather than the setting itself, which is why I'm a big fan of today's sponsor, Burrowbound. Burrowbound are creators of fully developed, fleshed out, and rich cities for your tabletop campaigns. They take a lot of the stress and work out of game prep, and for every city they create everything you need for an urban adventure. You get top-down interior and exterior maps, comprehensive setting PDFs outlining all of the info you need, art and illustrations, including character tokens and portraits, evocative music tied to the city to bring it to life, which is something I am really, really excited about because I love using music in my games. And there are assets that are ready to plug into Foundry VTT. You can use the cities as is, or you can pull them apart and mash them together and, use the parts that are most inspiring to you and your players. These cities are 100% system agnostic, so you can use them for any tabletop RPG. One such city is Falthringer, an ancient mountaintop bastion with bewildered royal inhabitants and untold alchemical secrets. Interesting. You can check out Falthringer for free and then gain access to all of Burrowbound's available cities by signing up to their Patreon using the link in the description. Thank you, Burrowbound, for sponsoring this video and making this very busy Dungeon Master's life just a little bit easier. While Team Wildmount are at the Spire by Fire, somewhere else in the city, a portal opens in a tree and Prism, with her enlarged raven familiar, hang glides out over the city.
Bye, I'll never see you ever again.
As you glide out of the tree, leaping and going over a massive drop expanse below you, just over the lip of a garden.
Prism, wait.
As she floats out over the surrounding jungle, Arm reaches out with Seedling to grab her tush, getting advantage because it's determined that Prism has a nice tush, not to mention an 8-pack.
Welcome to the library, bitch.
So we can add that to the Exandrian canon, I guess. Team AOL have found themselves in the Lucent Spire, home of many of the wealthy families of Dressar, in a public garden. As they look upon Ruidus and the converging of the leyline energy to the Malleus Key site, they discuss what their next move is, ultimately deciding to head to the Spire by Fire as it's the most likely place the Team Wildmount would head. Gonna be fun to just start saying Bell's Hells again instead of differentiating between the two teams. They catch a gondola as the one for this spire is still working, and they accost a fellow passenger, a courier, asking him all kinds of questions about what has been happening around town.
Can I help by subtly stepping in front of Laudna and blocking her visage from his view and smiling? Yeah.
He's like, why are you talking to me? Why are you asking me? Get away from me. And honestly, I act exactly the same when someone talks to me on public transport. I'm just like, go away.
Well,
All couriers are dodgy.
kind of their job.
Postal workers.
What is this cross-campaign beef you have with the Post, Marisha?
Mail system. This is a reference to Campaign 2 in which Marisha's character Bo stole some mail from the postal service.
Yeah, I was just wondering if you had any incoming mail for the bomb box. I just said that I would pick it up on the way home, heading over there.
Make a deception check.
Wow. Mail fraud on the way out of town.
They arrive at the Spire by Fire and finally, the group is reunited.
Oh my god! Let me move all my shit. Is this your conch?
As they all sat down, I actually felt so emotional, but I also felt so much pity for poor Matthew Mercer having to DM for 10 players. I don't know about all of you, but like 4 or 5 players is my maximum. Like I could never. What about you? Any of you out there DMing for groups like this large? Are you okay? Imogen is the one who notices them first, and they all have a heartfelt and very chaotic reunion.
I lift her up.
I'm just
so happy.
This is my friend.
There's an animal sitting at the table with you guys?
No, it's another table.
I'm just gonna.
The soldiers you were spying on have gone up and left now, so you probably
Okay,
would have
great.
returned.
So I'll just go under the table and change.
Okay.
Oh my god!
They all squeeze into a private room and spend a lot of time info dumping on each other about everything that they've got up to whilst they were separated and commenting on their vastly different experiences. A lot of critters, myself included, were waiting with bated breath to see how each group would respond to each other's thoughts about the gods, and after Team AOL revealed that they killed an angel of the Dawn Father,
Absolutely alienated the Church of the Dawn Father.
Wait, I'm so sorry. Back that up. What?
Oh yes, an angel came from the sky, and
Yeah.
We killed an
And we
angel.
killed an angel.
Well, we didn't
with a
kill an
demon
angel.
I summoned.
The guy that
What?
we
An angel
killed
of the Dawn Father?
killed the angel.
Maybe.
Why would you do that?
Well, it was trying to kill us in the moment.
And the Dawn Father was
That's
The angel tried to kill you?
I
Oh,
think
yes.
that they were more conflicted than I was. I'm just going to go on the record and say that I think we did that town a favor
We
because the
definitely did.
Dawn Father presence there was military and it was disgusting and they were taking tithes from all the people and they were running
get
out
some more
for
drinks.
lumber.
there's also this moment where FCG shares their experience meeting the Changebringer.
She came to me and spoke to me, and I have a special place in her universe, I guess, and I have someone to fight for and believe in.
Well, that's. I was gonna say amazing, but it's also really complicated right now, isn't it?
Well, I mean, not for me.
seems like a lot of people are very mad that the gods get picky and choosy with who they favor and who they choose to ignore.
Yeah, the way you put it almost sounds like the gods are planning escape pods.
Well, I think maybe we just don't understand what the gods are like, but why do they have to be all things for all people? I mean, they have their own goals and their own hang-ups, and I feel like gods are people too. And, you know, they're just trying to do their best, and right now they need us to help them.
Overall, though, they didn't really have time to delve into a lot of this stuff. There was just so many people at the table, and there wasn't really space for smaller conversations because there was just so much to cover. I know some critters were predicting a schism between the two groups because of their views on the gods, but I think the fact that they are again under a time pressure because they know that the armed forces are heading out to the site and they want to get there before them, I think that time pressure is going to cause them to put those differences aside because they're all agreed on one thing: Ludinus is an asshole. Hopefully, even though there is some time pressure, they will get to have some of those conversations as they travel. There's just like a lot to get into there with the ethics and the morality and the philosophy of Exandria, and I'm really hoping that we get to explore that a little bit. They also discuss Bordor and his death, and surprisingly, Prison takes the credit, or, you know, the fall for it.
I punched a man and killed him.
Yes, we had
Was he a
betrayal.
bad
We had
man?
help.
Yes, it was
With
really
what?
bad. He tried to assassinate me for something I didn't even do.
I was very intrigued by this choice to basically take credit for it. I wonder if it was purposefully to take away some of the blame from Laudner, or if it was because Prism feels guilty and truly does believe that it's her fault, or maybe she was playing it up to suit her new, like, bad mage image. Maybe it's a little from Column A, Column B, and Column C. Whilst the group are having this discussion upstairs, Deanna downstairs finds a spot to cast Commune. Commune is a spell which allows you to contact your deity and ask him 3 yes or no questions. Question 1. Is working with Bell's Hells going to help save the gods? They seem dangerous. Answer: unclear. This really pisses Deanna off. She doesn't like that the god is like, I don't know. And the second question:
Are your disciples perpetrating harm in this world at your behest?
My disciples, do what is necessary for the good of our people collectively and the future of Exandria.
One more. Are you worth saving?
You are thrust out of your communion. with enough force that you like hit the back of the wood and your eyes burn like you had been staring into the sun itself.
Yep, no surprises there. I'm honestly a little surprised that she didn't take any, like, psychic damage or anything. I guess it was, like, the equivalent of the Dawnfather just giving her a little, like, around the ears or something. But as we'll see later in the episode, this bold line of questioning is not without consequences. Before we continue, I just want to say a huge thank you to everyone who signed up to my Patreon after my last video. I'm hoping to make critter content my full-time job by the end of the year, and I have a goal to reach 300 patrons to make that happen, and we are getting closer! If you'd like to get access to exclusive behind-the-scenes content, as well as early access to some videos and a monthly patron-only live stream, then click the link in the description or go to patreon.com/Luboffin. There were also a number of comments on my last video of people saying, I really want to help, but I can't afford to sign up, and I totally get that. There are actually a bunch of ways that you can help for free if you would like to help me, make this my full-time thing. The first one is watching, liking, and commenting on my videos. That is a huge help. It shows the YouTube robots that my videos are good. Following and interacting with me on my other socials like Twitch, Twitter, TikTok, and also now Threads is also extremely helpful. And finally, sharing these videos with other critters who might enjoy them is just an incredibly helpful way to spread them via word of mouth and let people know that I'm hopefully doing good stuff over here. Thank you again for your support. Back to the video. Sorry for the interlude. Deanna heads upstairs where the group continue to catch up, and there were so many wonderful moments from this reunion. Here are a couple of my favorites.
We had a threesome.
Oh!
Well, just
Wow.
not me.
Why is she staring at me so intently? I don't trust this troop, and I'm a bit curious as to why we've wandered into such mixed company.
You have a raven, a book, and a devil?
The devil is conditional.
Who's the closest we got
only
to a
have-
threesome?
I'm gonna try to take the ring off of Ash.
That's gonna be real hard.
I want to provide the help action by distracting Austin.
So I got this ring.
I really wanted to fit way more clips in there because it was just so many moments. I also love this moment from FCG meeting Daniellos.
What do you think of him? Do you like him?
Well, he's an object with sentience, so I kind of like. I appreciate that. I've just started to realize that objects can be alive too, or things that were built. They just need a little spark. I found that things need life to live.
I've been waiting to hear you say that.
This is referencing a historic moment from Campaign 1 when Taliesin's character Percy said,
"Life needs things to live."
That's so poetic.
Percy/Taliesin copped so much flack for that line, and it still remains very funny. It's such a nothing line. It's it's like live, laugh, love. It's got that kind of vibe. Orym asked Deanna to scry on Keyleth using the message seed that he still has. Just a little warning message from Daddy Dawnfather there. Honestly, I don't know if Deanna is going to have her cleric powers for much longer, especially because at the end of the episode, she covers up all the symbols of the Dawnfather on her armor. But I digress, back to the scry, where we finally learn Keyleth's fate.
You see a figure standing, looking through this window. Turns around, carrying a staff. Woman, red hair, horns, leaning heavily on the staff. Somebody talks on the side, and she looks back and nods and kind of gives a physical motion before kind of almost falling onto the ground before figures rush in and kind of catch her and lead her back to a bed. And you see she fights them to try and get back under her own strength before eventually laying there for a second and setting the staff to her side.
I mean, I genuinely never believed that Matthew Mercer would kill her off screen, but it is still such a relief to have that confirmed. However, she is not in a good way, and I think it's a safe assumption that Odahan's blades were poisoned with the anti-divinity poison that has popped up elsewhere in the campaign, which could be why those wounds aren't healing. From a narrative perspective too, this works to take Keyleth out of the equation somewhat, answering the age-old fantasy story problem of why doesn't the high-level magic user just deal with this? I have so many other questions though, starting with how did Keyleth get here? It's confirmed that these are her chambers in Zephyr, so she was able to get out of the Malleus Key site somehow. Maybe she was one who was also teleported away, just like Belle's Hells. I mean, she is a moon circle druid, so maybe there is some kind of Ruidus connection there too. But also, what happened to Bo and Caleb? Inquiring minds need to know. I really hope that they use a scry at some point to look at look at them. I just need to know. As we see Keyleth leave her chambers, she runs her hands across a black feather hanging from a tapestry, a little connection to Vax. After all this catching up, the discussion turns to what they should do next. Unfortunately, Prism, Deanna, and Frida do need to depart just for sheer practicality purposes, and so what they decide to do is team up and go on a fact-finding mission to see what they can learn that might be helpful to Belle's Hells. They decide to start by visiting the Starpoint Conservatory, using Imogen's letter of introduction, and after that they may potentially infiltrate Vasselheim. But FCG doesn't want Frida to leave, he wants them to stay, and it's only by Frida saying that they don't trust Prism and want to keep an eye on her and Deanna that FCG is convinced.
And in your head you hear that's probably why I should go. I don't trust her.
Oh.
There's also this heartbreaking moment when FCG says like, hey, this is going to be a temporary separation, right? You're going to come back and find me, right? And Frida says,
yes. But I don't believe it.
No. I will say though, I really appreciate them being mindful of staying true to their characters' desires and motivations whilst also managing the production side of things. Frida isn't going to be able to join the party forever, so they needed to reconcile that in the story, but I loved how Sam didn't shy away from FCG being like, no, don't leave, and them kind of working that out. However, there's nothing to say that one of the Belle's Hells couldn't leave, and FCG thinks about leaving to go with Frida, and all I could think was, Sam Riegel, no, don't you dare do this to us again. But ultimately, he decides to stay.
Orem's right. If we don't save the gods, my whole existence is to help people and to make people feel better and to keep them safe. And a god can keep so many people safe, so many more than I'll ever get to. So if I'm really following my duty and my purpose, I've got to help her because she can help so many. So I don't need to flip. I'll go with y'all and I'll help. We gotta save her.
And that's on character growth. With the guest PC's plans sorted, Belle's Hells decide that they're going to head back to the Malleus Key site for round 2 with Ludinus. The two groups exchange body parts, ew, so that they can all scry on each other, with Fern revealing that she has access to scry now that she's leveled up, and they say their goodbyes.
And I just want to give you a big hug, and I'm going to cast Death Ward on you. Don't die.
I got this.
Okay. I love you.
Nerd.
Just a little kiss on the cheek.
And I'll walk over to FCG, and I'll get down to eye level and take the cigarette from you. And kiss you.
I take the cigarette.
In hundreds of years, I've never had this opportunity. I love you, faithful caregiver. I'll see you soon.
You will. That's a promise. I love you, Frida. Thank you for everything and for giving me yourself.
Don't smoke, it's unattractive.
Oh.
Shit.
Okay. I'll,
So it begins.
Oh, whoa, 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 whoa.
Raises up a tiny little fist bump to Prism.
I reach down to fist bump him and then cast enlarge on you.
I'm 6'6". Amazing.
This is how I really see you, Orem.
This is really weird.
Well, we are back on the train heading full speed towards the Malleus Key site, and I can't wait to see what they find there. I hope that we are going to get some time for them to talk a little bit more in depth about what happened, especially with Laudna, because she's really got some processing to do. And speaking of Laudna, I was honestly expecting her to take a level in Warlock following the events with Border and potentially letting Delilah back into her life, but she did still take a level in Sorcerer, so, hopefully Delilah is still tucked away somewhere, safe and sound. As always, let me know your thoughts about this episode in the comments below. I'd especially love to hear your favourite moment from the reunion scene, because there were just so many fun little moments and I wasn't able to include them all. Candela Obscura episode 2 is dropping on YouTube this week, and if you need a little refresher of what happened in episode 1, you can watch my full breakdown right here. Bye!